Another series win by the Rays over the weekend. We got lots to talk about, and let's start there, Steve, and especially with the return of Evan Longoria, who came in and signed a ceremonial, I guess you'd say, one-day contract and was honored before a weekend game throughout the first pitch, all of that. Now, this is not going to be in lieu of or in place of him eventually, and I think next year, going into the Rays, I guess, Ring of Honor, retire his number and all of that. But he, wanted to do this. He wanted to retire a Ray. And first of all, it was great to see him. But look, this is, I don't even think it's arguable. This is the greatest player in Rays history. And the fact that he brought them to relevance in his rookie year, with them going all the way to the World Series is not a coincidence, but was a fantastic player. I thought the ceremony, I saw a little bit of it. It was okay. I mean, it was a blazing hot day. I think there was 8,000 people showed up. They all got their T-shirts and whatnot. But like you said, they'll do something bigger and better maybe next year at the Trop. But Longoria, in my mind, no one's ever eclipsed him as far as popularity goes or impact, I guess.
Well, no, and he is the greatest Ray of all time at this point. And in part, all the records he has, in part, the big moments he's had. You think of the biggest moments in this franchise history, and he's such a big part of a lot of them. Game 163 and that. But also how long he played for the Rays. He's one of the longest tenured Rays, too, in his career in that. So this was a small appetizer to what's going to come next year. Longoria decided he wanted to retire this year. He's in town because the Sports Club of Tampa Bay inducted him into the Hall of Fame on Wednesday night with a bunch of other local ties, including John Cooper and Dave Mishkin and that. And so they wanted to do he wanted to retire as a Ray. Didn't want it to be as a Giant or Diamondback and the teams he's played for. He wanted to be the Ray. So he came in and did this. Next year, when they're back at Tropicana Field, presumably, and as the city council's passed more money to repair the Trop and things are underway, they'll do the big Hall of Fame thing that we've seen with Don Zimmer and we've seen with Dave Wills and others, where they'll have the ceremony on the field beforehand. He'll give a speech. They'll have people induct him in. That'll be the big ceremony next year. But this was just Evan wanting to retire, wanted to do as a Ray. It was great hearing Tantric, the ball field again.
Yeah. That was cool.
It's still been the best walk-up song the Rays have ever had
question.
As well.
Yeah.
You heard that music, you knew exactly what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Almost as good as Every Day I'm Hustling with Kiermaier, but I think Tantric was
better,
even more. Yeah. Just those notes hit, those violins hit, and it was awesome. So it was great to hear that again.
Yeah, you think about his impact, and Mark Tompkin wrote about this in the Tampa Bay Times on TampaBay.com. They had only won as many as 70 games just once. 70, okay, just once, from their 98 debut all the way through 2007, and he arrived in 2008. It was only 2 years really in pro baseball. He was the third overall pick in the 06 draft. Kansas City took Luke Hookaver, and then number one. In Colorado took Greg Reynolds, who was a pretty good player, number two, and then Longoria came to the Rays with the third overall pick. And I was listening to him. He wanted number 8? And he ended up 6 or 8. He ended up with 3, wasn't available. But you talk about, a guy arriving at the right time. Now they had other players obviously that were here that were doing great things and continue to do great things, especially in 08 with Carlos Pena and BJ Upton and such. But Evan just in many ways, he became a leader well before his time. I mean, this is a rookie in the first time in the majors, but he played every day or damn near every day. He was underrated, I thought, as a fielder. I think he may have won a Gold Glove. I'm not sure about that.
He won a couple.
A couple, yeah.
I meant 3. It was 2
or
3.
Was it 3? Yeah, sounds right. But he's listening to Joe Madden was on, I think, Jay Retcher's podcast, and he was talking about how, Evan was maybe one of the best he'd ever seen at coming in on slow rollers and throwing off platform, because usually you want to tell guys to set their feet and stuff. He goes, but he was almost more accurate if he was off platform. and he also thought he was an exceptional base runner. He lost some speed as his career went on, but he knew when to take the extra base. He could steal a base if you needed him to. He just did everything well. Like there's very few players in the majors that you say, you know, five, the old, the cliche five tool guy, but like seriously, like to play third base and you knew he was going to be in the lineup. If you're a Rays fan and you went to see them, this guy didn't take many days off, right? Like if he was healthy, he was going to be in the lineup and he was going to give you everything he had every single night. And that was the staple and then of course, in the clubhouse, he obviously was a leader and kind of did things his own way. But he held guys accountable. Remember, there was the much sort of publicized spat he had with BJ Upton. I think he yelled at him maybe for not hustling one day, and things like that. But just to build a franchise around a guy, like that's exactly who you would want to do it, right? And did things off the field the right way as well. It was. I remember the day that I guess it was. Did they let him go to San Francisco or traded him there? But at any rate, they let him get out of Tampa Bay, and it was like you kind of knew it was time. But by the same token, it was one of the I think more sad days that that there was in Rays history. Just because I know my son grew up, he was born in '95, so all he knew was the Rays. But he became a huge Longoria fan. That was the jersey that all the kids wore, right? Like if you have a kid that around that age that when Evan played here, that was the jersey, that was the favorite player, and you were happy for them to wear it because he represented so many great things. So it was cool. It's cool to see him put it back on again. The big ceremony will be if and when they get back in the Trop at some point, and I'll put him in the Hall of Fame. But for him to feel like it was important for him and maybe the organization to say, yeah, I'm closing out my career, ceremony or not, as a Tampa Bay Ray. That was pretty cool.
It was. And yes, he was traded by the Rays with cash to the Giants. He got Steven Woods, Christian Arroyo, Matt Crook, and Denard Span in return.
Okay, well, that didn't work out. No. Nothing against Denard Span, who's, was helping out with the Rays broadcast a little while ago, Tampa Bay's own. But, yeah, Longo didn't do a lot with the Giants, though, although I think he still had, more baseball in him. But, yeah, it's hard. It's hard when guys that are such a big part of your franchise, end up leaving, and that's and then he ended up with the Diamondbacks after that as well.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, he spent 5 seasons in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Actually, what did he hit there? 70 home runs there.
Okay.
He had 342 home runs in his career.
Yeah, I know. He
had 1,159 RBIs.
Yeah, no, he had a great career. It really did. But like you said, he was known for the moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like every big moment, you're exactly right. Like you see Evan Longoria, whether it's catching a foul ball to advance them, or of course the game 163 or whatever it was, 162. With the 2 home runs and then the walk off, and they made a freaking statue out of it, didn't they? In there a statue in front of Trop?
Yes, although there was, yeah.
It may have since been blown down.
He and Iwamura had the other one.
Oh yeah, Aki, yeah, yep. That's right. Yeah, so yeah, pretty cool to see Evan. And I guess he still splits his time. He's mostly in Arizona right now.
So, remember, he's from California, so that was home always.
Played for Long Beach, all that,
Yep.
I know his story pretty well,
but it was really cool hearing that music. Like I said, that was I was at home watching, but they hit that
dun 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 dun.
Those
violins hit it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I had to look up what tantric was when he first started having that music. As but the Rays are playing like the '98 Rays these days. And
they're not playing like the '98 Rays.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say 98? No, not like
no.
Like the 2008 Rays. There you go. Like the Longoria Rays, the 2008 Rays. At the beginning of the year, they were playing a little bit like the '98 Rays when they were, especially at Steinbrenner. But now they've turned that around. Nobody's talking about the home field curse anymore, which is good. I saw a stat the other day, and this one kind of got to me a little bit. which was, in the beginning of the year, I mean, they were dreadful and, offensively especially. But how about this? Since May 21st, which was a while ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
The team with the most home runs, your Tampa Bay Rays with 30.
Yep.
The New York Mets are second with 25, the Angels with 23, the Blue Jays with 23, and the Astros with 23. So, I mean, here we are. That's a good, 3 weeks ago or so, 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah, 30 home runs. That's been the difference, obviously, in the offense. The pitching still has been lights out, I think, pretty consistently for the most part, except the other day when they, gave up 10 runs or 11 runs. And that was kind of a hiccup by Taj Bradley, especially. But
like you get one of those games over 2 weeks, like, okay.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah.
The shame is they came back in that game.
Oh, they did. Yeah.
You're thinking, okay, after they got that, they were up 6-4. It was up 4-1 and then 4-4. I think it was 6-4. And all of a sudden they're down 10-6.
Yeah.
Almost 11-6. They had to over the challenge to play at home.
Right.
But then the Rays come back to tie it at 10. And you're like, all right, they got this.
Right.
And that was the disappointing part. But you came out the next day and won, so it's okay.
Yeah. I think all of that. They're just playing better, and Junior Caminero has been sensational. I mean, absolutely, can carry a team, the way anybody else on that ball club can. He did it. He's done it base running, being aggressive. At times he does it with his glove, although that's not the plus part of his game.
Yeah, how about the base running on Thursday night it was?
He scored 2 runs on a ground ball to second base.
Yeah.
Yeah. Insane.
I mean, the Rangers just fell apart that inning.
They did. They really did.
Like Josh Young gets a grounder at third, but he has to fall to his knees and does a spin around.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of throwing to first, looked to second first where he didn't have a play.
Right.
And by the time he threw it to first, base runner safe. So, the inning goes on, and then, then the second baseman gets the ball, has no play, that run scores, but Cameron never stopped. He didn't even look home.
He ran through the stop sign. I mean, I think.
Well, he was sending him that the last minute stopped him. By that point, Cameron was like, I'm gone.
Yeah, he was gone. And Simeon held the ball a little bit, and then by the time he released it, it was kind of a bang-bang play at the plate, but he did beat it. But, yeah, you score 2 runs on a ground ball to second and get nobody out. It's just, oh, my God. But those are the things you have to do sometimes. Every day we're hustling. This is a team that Kiermaier would love.
And by the way, as much as everyone's dumped on him, Christopher Morel had a nice game on Saturday.
He had and they lost, unfortunately. That's the game they lost, right? He had 2 home runs.
But yeah, he had a really nice
double.
game.
Yeah. Finally broke out, although, and a lot of people are like, well, Chandler Simpson, the Rays are doing pretty good without him. And they are. There's no question about that. Morel was the guy, although he's a right-handed bat, which they need. But he was the guy that I question I'm like, well, just, you don't have any options with him, but who cares? Right. And then he comes back and has a big night and showed the power that they thought was there when they traded for him. They haven't seen it consistently, but he did have 2 home runs, and yet they still lost because that was the one game that the pitching didn't hold up, and Taj had a really rough night trying to get the ball over the plate and give up a bunch of leads. And, he's got to be better than that and be more consistent. But overall, I mean, this Rays team, what are they now? Back to 4 over 500, I think. At one point, they were
5 over
500.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right now, if the playoffs started today, the Rays are in the playoffs.
No,
the
that's
Twins,
it. Call
the Twins,
season.
Rays, and Blue Jays are all tied for the 3 wild card spots.
Wow. And with the Yankees losing to Boston, it'll be about 4.5 back.
4.5. That's correct.
I mean, that's striking distance, man, of the evil empire.
Yeah, we're June 9th. You're 4.5 back.
And this series, I think, is just beginning, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe they played a couple games. I don't know at this point.
Well, the Rays are now on the road this week. They're in Boston starting tonight, and they'll be in New York this weekend.
Oh, okay.
So it's division games this week on the road.
Tough swing, but yeah, you got to get some stuff done on the road here and have a chance to maybe make up some more ground on the Yankees. That'd be great. I'll tell you, they've surprised me. Just watching them, I didn't think the bats would come around the way they have, and that's obviously been a big difference. The pitching has been stellar pretty much throughout, but especially the starting staff. Some of those guys are almost unhittable. But the defense has always been there. They run you to death. Steve, this team, remember all the trouble they had running the bases? They just ran stupid, right? They made a lot of
Mm-hmm.
outs on the bases. They still make some, but it's usually when they have a lead, they don't run themselves out of games like they've done in the past. And they put so much pressure, I think, on a pitcher and a defense because they're going to steal you to death. And that's been huge for them. Like just the other day, what was it, Sunday? Um, I think they got a steal of third, if I'm not mistaken, and just a short sack fly ended up bringing in the winning run by Brandon Lau. So
Mm-hmm.
they will get guys to third base and just put tons of pressure on you. So
Well,
I like
here's
their
the other
game.
thing, and this was awful last year, if you remember. Runners in scoring position.
Oh yeah,
The Rays are 6th in baseball.
that's crazy to me.
269, and I don't remember last year. I want to say last year they were something like 210, and I think the White Sox were the only team.
That sounds about right. They were wretched with runnings in scoring position.
Actually,
Absolutely.
I'm going to look it up right now. Last year they finished dead last at 212 with runners in scoring position.
And now they're 6th?
They are 6th.
Oof.
Even the White Sox were 7 points ahead of them with runners in scoring position last year, as bad as they were.
You know what that is? And well, it's better hitting, obviously, but I think as much as anything, it's the approach. I see guys on this Rays team striking out far less than I can ever remember. Like they move the baseball, they move the baseball, and 1 through 9. Of course, we've talked about how much length their lineup seems to have right now with the return of Josh Lowe. But man, 1 through 9. The other day, I think everybody in the last final 3 had a hit, an RBI, multiple hits. Like the bottom of the lineup was on fire. So, but you don't see the strikeouts like you used to see. There was a time where they were like home run strikeout, but these guys, they put pressure on you on the bases. They put pressure on your defense by making contact. I just think their whole approach is better this year for some reason.
Yeah, I mean they're middle of the pack in strikeouts overall.
I'll take that.
But I think more than that, and this is just the eye test or just what you remember. Like in the important moments, you don't see the strikeouts.
That's right.
Okay, so 2 out in the 4th inning, and it's a 5-1 game, and you strike out to end the inning. Like okay,
no one notices.
Fine.
Yeah,
right. Mm-hmm. It's the big moments where you don't notice there's the whiff and
game over, strike 3. Yeah. No, I like their approach, and now I think it's getting harder to watch those games. I think it's getting harder to play them. We'll see if what was a home field disadvantage becomes an advantage just because it's so brutally hot. I mean, these teams coming in here aren't exactly ready for this. It's hot everywhere. It's the summer. I get it. But
you've seen the other teams complain, though.
Yeah. No, and if you live in it, if you work in it, I've always said this. I'm not sure you're better for it because I think you're dehydrated. I know they watch their hydration levels and all that, whatever. Same thing with the Bucs, but to me, I think mentally you can deal with it much better just because that's where you live. You're breathing the humid air every day. For me, if I go out to Colorado, I feel like a fish on a sidewalk. I cannot breathe. And that air is so dry. And I'm so used to being below sea level practically, and we all but have gills here in Florida because there's so much moisture in the air. But when I go out to Colorado, it kills me. The elevation, but mostly just the dry air. I mean, my lungs, my nose, my skin, everything just kind of like, like I said, I feel like I'm a fish on a sidewalk. But for people coming from other places, and like I said, if you've been in the Baltimore area, DC area in the summertime, there's no place hotter than that, and it's humid and everything else. So it's hot everywhere. But there is something about being in Florida that if you're not used to it, it can get you, that humidity and fluid loss and everything. And these guys are having to cope with it every day, but they seem to be doing a pretty good job because they're playing their best right now as it gets warmer. And that ball, by the way, seems to be flying. Doesn't it seem to be flying out of Steinbrenner a little more regularly now?
It definitely is. I mean, and early in the year, it didn't fly like you expected.
Yeah.
And everyone said, just wait till you get to June.
Wait till summer. That's right.
Late May, June, and the wind patterns will change, the air, everything else, and boy, we've seen it. Absolutely, you have.
Yeah, and they're getting the lion's share of it. I mean, they're taking advantage with the home runs, like we mentioned. So,
well, I think the pitching's been really good, which has made it tough for the other teams to get those home runs.
It has.
Like outside of Taj and the bullpen on Saturday, which one game in a few weeks.
Yeah,
that happens. Otherwise it's been
Drew
lights
Rasmussen finally had his scoreless streak broke the other day. A couple of flares, and he gave up a run. So Alex Cobb's streak is still intact, but he's been lights out, just lights out. I mean, they've all pitched well except for Taj's hiccup the other day. But it's good to see. Really good to see. We got lots to talk about. The Bucs will begin their mandatory minicamp on Tuesday. Yes, you will see Hassan Reddick. Yes, you will see Chris Godwin. No, I don't expect him to be doing anything, but it is mandatory, so we can get into that. First, let's remind you guys to go see our friends at Breitling Boutique. They're an International Plaza Mall, and they're there for a reason. They have a terrific store. You go to the center of the mall, go upstairs. You're going to see the Breitling Boutique, which has been there for, I don't know, about 5+ years. The Breitling company has been making Swiss watches now for over 140 years. And you take that together and you're going to see the best customer service you've ever encountered. They're used to dealing with professional athletes. You're likely to see a Buccaneer or two if you hang around the store long enough. But they're going to take you in. They're going to teach you about these watches. And we're talking about the Navitimers, the chronomats that they're known for, men's watches and women's watches too. Plenty of sports watches in particular. These things are durable. They're beautiful for your wife or your girlfriend. And she's going to love it because she has a ton of different colored wristbands to choose from. And they've been doing this thing with the NFL where there are 32 different teams in the NFL, 32 team watches, chronomat watches, while the supplies last. And that's a key. But each team has the logo on the face of the watch with the team colors. It is absolutely sensational. Go to TampaBay.com. You're likely to see the Buccaneers team watch as well. This is Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. You're going to love the experience. You're going to walk out with the best timepiece you have ever owned. Make sure you let them know that you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Hey, a little update as we do the podcast. The Tampa Bay Sun, in their inaugural year, are going to host the championship. And they will do that against Fort Lauderdale, which upset Charlotte up there in Carolina. And so it's the Tampa Bay Storm against Charlotte. And
who said it's still not Tampa Bay?
It is very much Tampa Bay.
I mean, that's all it is. Championships come through here.
That's it. We are the land of champions. And so that game will be at their field there at Blake High School. You guys should try to get your tickets now. It holds about a little over 5,000. They had a good crowd on hand on Saturday night when they defeated Dallas to advance to the final, and then they needed a little bit of help from Fort Lauderdale going up to Charlotte and winning. They beat the number one seed. So these are two really good teams, obviously, and this is the culmination of the first year of their league in the USL, the Women's League. And so we had the president on. If you want to go back and listen to some podcasts from last week, where we had the president, Amanda, was it Vandervoort, I believe, was on with us, and talking about the league, talking about these teams in particular, and just how well it has done for the inaugural season. So congratulations to them. It's cool to see the other teams come out and support them on social media and whatnot. That's always fun for sure, but it's a good time out there. It's a beautiful venue. It's just right across the river on Amateur Works. You can even take one of the little boats across and have a big experience. So look forward to that. And
if you haven't been there, that's the way to do it. Go to Armature Works first. Take that
absolutely
the water taxi over, which is free.
Yeah.
And then after the game, hang around at Armature Works a lot more. So.
Just do it up right, man. Make it an evening. I mean,
we've been out there a couple times this year. It's great.
It's a gorgeous venue. It really is. And they do a nice job with the game day. They got the drums going. They got everything going on out there. So this is it. This is for the title, man. It's going to be fun.
Yep. Hey, did you see where Jason Light was this weekend?
Jason Light, actually, yeah, I did. What was the band? Metallica, right?
Yeah.
Metallica? I think Metallica might have stopped by OTAs, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not exactly sure.
It looked like they were at $1 Place at one point, yeah.
Yeah, I think they came out, and then he went to Raymond James and did the Metallica concert.
I was there Friday night. It was a great show.
Yeah. So they did a couple nights? Is that what it was?
They did Friday and Sunday.
Oh, okay. So Friday and Sunday.
Two nights concert. They didn't repeat a song either night. I was not at Sunday nights, but I did.
They did not repeat a song?
No, each night was completely different set list.
So which night got Enter Sandman?
Sunday night. I did not get to see that one. So.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That was
We saw Nothing Else Matters and Sad But True and a bunch of others. But
they
Enter
still
Sandman
sound good.
Was Sunday night.
Sound
they
good.
Sounded great. Sounded great.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool. That's a big time concert. That's a big time band.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was packed. I mean, I assume it was sold out. So sure looked like it.
Jason Light is a proud metalhead, a little bit. He loves the big time bands, and he was there. I think he took his kids. I'm not sure exactly who went, but yeah, that was cool.
That was good to have that. I mean, that actually Friday night. So you had Metallica, and then Dierks Bentley was at the Amp, and a bunch of Lightning players were there. They went up on stage with him for a little bit. So
we're just the center of the entertainment world then, huh?
Absolutely.
There you go. That's good to know. Hey, since we last talked, Aaron Rodgers has signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's a 1-year deal, I think, for just a little bit over $20 million or something.
I think I saw it was 13, but could get up
13,
to 19.
That was it. Yeah, you're right.
Could get up to 19 or 20 with incentives.
Yeah. I guess I'm not surprised, but so many people are dumping on this decision or on this signing. And I guess my initial thought is, well, was there a better option? I mean, really, was there a better option as the Steelers are constituted right now?
It just depends on what Aaron Rodgers you get. And I don't necessarily mean on the field. I mean off the field more than anything. But that locker room and that coaching staff and that organization, you don't need him to be a hero for every game. Like, they go 9-8 every year, no matter who's at quarterback.
Yes, that's true.
And they're hoping that they're in a division with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. Like, they just need better quarterback play than they've got the last few years to win a few more games and then take a shot in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you tried Justin Fields, you tried Russell Wilson. I mean, Fields is back, with the Jets, or not back with the Jets, but he's likely to be the starting quarterback for the Jets. And Russ is now with the Giants with Jameis Winston. I don't think either of those two guys are better options. The thing that's different about Pittsburgh, I think, than it was about the Jets. I mean, first of all, it became a disaster because the guy went there with plenty of hype and fanfare, and what I thought was a pretty good defense at least. And then 4 plays into the first game, with all the hype, he tears his Achilles, and that's not an easy injury to come back from at any age, right? Like literally at any age. But this guy had to do it, and try to make it back the same year. So the desire was there. And then the next season, they end up firing Robert Saleh. Everything went to crap. He played well statistically, but it was, it wasn't a good season from the standpoint of the team, obviously. And so they decided to go a different direction. That's when they flew him across the country and all of that. The thing I would say about what's different about Pittsburgh, and there's a lot of things different about Pittsburgh than New York, obviously. But the thing about Pittsburgh is this, that as great as Aaron Rodgers has been in his Hall of Fame career, as big as he is, he's not going to draw the narrative away from Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin is the culture builder in that organization. He's been there for a very long time. He lost to Aaron Rodgers in the Super Bowl. And this team seems to make the playoffs every year with anybody at quarterback. And I think they've won 10 games each of the last 2 years. But Tomlin and Rodgers have a great mutual respect for each other. And I know Mike, and Mike's going to have plenty of things he wants from Aaron to do better and to do well. And that will include leadership and things like that. But with Mike, it's like, look, I got you. Okay. I got the team. You just worry about playing quarterback, right? Like, I don't need you to be up there setting the tone and in the locker room and all this. He's just going to let Rodgers play the position. And hopefully, if you're Mike Tomlin, you feel like we can protect him, number one. We can run the football, which we've always done. And we got a pretty good defense. You got a pretty good defense, which is getting older, okay? I don't know how many more years that JJ Watt's going to be able to play. They got some guys long in the tooth now, starting to get up there in age, but they're still very good. So, in fairness to those guys, to give them a chance, why not get a quarterback that can still spin it? And if everything goes right, and I heard Albert Breer talking about this, like they could have hit a double and gone and got Kirk Cousins, right, to go with Arthur Smith at coordinator. But they went for the long shot. They went for the home run, and you can't fault them for that because they're tired of winning 10 games and losing in the first round of the playoffs. So, and it may just be a disaster because Rodgers can't play anymore, and that's that. But I don't think he's going to be, a guy that's popping off about how bad the offense is, or Mike's not going to have any of that. And I know Tomlin, and Tomlin's going to be the voice of that team. And yeah, a lot of people want to, and we'll talk to Rodgers, but I just think it's a good marriage because I know how much those two guys respect each other, and I know how they both probably think this can work, and that they have to make it try to work. And like I said, regardless, what was the alternative? I mean, the problem is with the Steelers is they don't lose enough games to draft in the top 5 to get a quarterback, and they haven't hit on one in free agency, and they haven't hit on one in any case since, Ben Roethlisberger retired, which was many, many years ago at this point. But I don't dislike it. Now, the one thing I'll say is I'm not sure he's a Pittsburgh guy in terms of the community. I mean, Terry Bradshaw just ripped him a new one, and he ain't going to be wearing number 12, even though I see that sometimes in these.
I think he said there's wearing number 8.
They weren't going to wear 8. Yeah, in the Photoshop jerseys, they had 12 on there. I was like, oh, no. But, Terry went on the radio. This guy, he'd go back to California, just do what he does. Just drink, smoke, whatever it is. You don't need to be playing football in Pittsburgh. It's like, okay, easy, Terry. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, man. He's just trying to finish his career there. But Terry is dead set against it. And that doesn't help you with the fan base if Terry Bradshaw is saying it's a bad idea. But that said, I actually think, you're playing, like you said, you're in a division with Lamar Jackson, with Joe Burrow, okay?
And Joe Flacco.
And Joe Flacco, right. Shedeur Sanders. And so, you can't be outgunned in every single game at the quarterback position, man. To compete with those teams, it's tough. It's going to be tough to make the playoffs. It's going to be really tough to win the division, if not impossible. But they still managed to compete with lesser guys. And if Rodgers is right, and we don't know that he is, and he doesn't do OTAs, and he doesn't do train, all that stuff, he's got to come to mandatory minicamp. Will be this week. He'll be there. But I think they've just kind of played it the right way. They gave him his space. He said he had some personal things he had to work through. He obviously didn't hold them up for money, and now he's going to come to mandatory minicamp, and then he's got 5 or 6 weeks to get ingrained with the offense and whatever he's going to do in the off season, and come back and start training camp and see if he can't put something together. But now he's going to be 41, so it's and he's got a and 1 year removed from an Achilles injury, so it's not like he's the mobile, healthy Aaron Rodgers that he once was. But then nobody is. I'm not saying he's Tom Brady when he came to Tampa. He's just not the same temperament. He's not that guy. But he can still spin it. His numbers were fairly good the last season in New York, despite all the change. And I'm kind of interested. I'm a little intrigued by it. A lot of people are just like, "This is stupid. Why would they do that?" I don't feel that way. If he still thinks he can play, and he has a desire to win, I think Mike will put him in a position to win a lot of games.
I agree. I think that's an organization. Like the Jets have been a mess for decades.
They've been a disaster. Yeah.
Just ask Todd Bowles, who was the coach there.
Yeah,
and people
absolutely.
Still judge him as the coach of the Bucs because
he had 4 years
a bad
there.
tenure in New York. But it's the Jets, man. They've been bad for a long time, and it starts with ownership and everything else.
Bowles' best year was 10-6 with the Jets with Ryan Fitzpatrick as his quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Fitzpatrick. Love Ryan, but he's not generally considered a starter very many places he's been. So, yeah, that's just kind of where where careers sometimes go to die, at least since Rex Ryan was there when they were making it, deeper into playoffs for a little while, then getting beat by the Colts. But I think this is a different organization. In fact, I know it is. It's one of the most stable organizations in terms of ownership, their loyalty to their head coaches. They've had 3 in 50-something years.
Yep.
It really is but it's also a different region. Like these are hardworking people that love their Steelers and they know football. And that's the other thing. Like Aaron Rodgers ain't going to jake it there. They will get on him so hard they'll run him out of town. But I don't think you're going to get that Aaron Rodgers. I think, like I said, I think Michael control it, and I think it could potentially work. Now, does it mean they're going to go to the AFC Championship game? Probably not. But maybe they can win a playoff game for a change. I think they've lost their last 6 or 8, whatever it's been, and it's been a minute since they've done anything great. So,
and look, if Rodgers doesn't work, it's a low risk signing.
Yeah.
For 1
year. Not high value, no.
You have Mason Rudolph on the roster.
Yep.
Not that he's good, but
nope.
Look, the Steelers can pretty much take any quarterback and win 9 games. I mean, that's
They've
pretty much
proven
what they do.
Yeah.
So you've got him there, and you drafted Will Howard.
Will Howard is more of a project, but you got a younger
having him
guy
in the room with Aaron Rodgers,
that doesn't hurt.
It does not hurt at all. So it's low risk. It wasn't a lot of money.
Right.
The Bucs got what? Baker Mayfield for $4 million the first year. It's only
right.
$13 million.
Yeah.
And if he can get you a couple extra wins and you're competing for a division title in that division, then it's worth it. And if it doesn't work out, they're probably still going to win 9 games.
Well, that's the problem. They always win too many games to get one of the top 5 picks in the draft,
Right. But 9 games has a shot at the playoffs potentially, depending on how everything plays out.
Sure it does. Yeah, I kind of like it. I mean, and look, I'm not going to stand up and beat the drum for Rodgers. I just think the guy can play. Now, he didn't have protection. That was the other thing. His offensive line with the Jets was terrible. There was a sieve. They didn't really address the offensive line there. They didn't really run the ball with any consistency. He tried to bring in some receivers, guys he trusted, and it just didn't work. But there's a lot of things wrong with the Jets. Like everything is wrong with the Jets. It's not the organization that you go to if you want to win. Pittsburgh is a place you go to win. Nothing else matters in Pittsburgh. They don't care who their stars are, and now he's got DK Metcalf to throw to. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm ready for football, though, even though I can't believe I'm saying this. Like the Bucs have their mandatory minicamp this week, Tuesday through Thursday. And then it's the last breath of vacation, right? Or time off or non-football, although I'm going to be busier than hell. We're writing a book. Did I tell you that?
I heard.
Yeah. It's on sale.
I saw it in the Mark Ketch's newsletter.
Yeah. Apparently you can pre-order. Like I haven't written enough books lately, right? Come on.
But you wrote a book?
Go buy the Player's Coach or something first. But yeah, no, it's a 50-year anniversary. It's a coffee table type book, and myself and Joey Knight are going to be very much invested in that. So we're going to be doing that all through the summer. They're going to want it really soon. I got to get started, and then they plan to ship it mid-November. Perfect Christmas present. Retail price is $44.75 plus tax, but if you order now, right now, you can get the book for $33.70, a 25% savings. Just go to the direct link and place your order. If you look up the Times newsletter and Mark Ketchus, you can do that. So excited about that. And I had a point to make. I can't remember what it is.
You're ready for football.
I'm ready for football season. I'm not ready to work because I'm never ready to work. It's a grind. It's like I know it. It's kind of like you want to run another marathon after you just got done running one. Because what people don't realize is like when the NFL season ends, it really doesn't end, right? There's a few weeks, and then before you know it, you're at the combine, and then right after that, it's free agency, and then right after that, you're preparing for the draft, and then the draft, and after that, it's rookie minicamp, after that, it's OTAs, and after that, it's mandatory minicamp. Nothing's really stopped. The schedule is in there in May. Like they've done an unbelievable job of staying relevant every single month of every single year, and so. Like the loop is the start of training camp, which is usually around July 28th to 29th or so. all the way till what's going to happen next week, which is the last practice on June 13th. That's the loop. Right? The regular season is much more difficult because there's a game every week and get the grind and all that. It's daily, but the off season is no picnic either. So I'm ready to be off, but I'm looking forward to the fall. Like, I'm really looking forward to college football, I think. And just those, God forbid if the weather ever turns, say in December. But yeah, we're not that many weeks away from actually seeing games that count in college football and whatnot. So it'll be exciting, man. I'm looking forward to, because right now, baseball, you're not quite at the All-Star break. You can't really make out exactly what's going on as far as who's running away. I mean, I'll go ahead and predict the Yankees and the Dodgers in the World Series, I guess. But
you're not taking the Tigers, the best team in baseball?
How about that? Now that's the story that goes under the radar right there.
Mm-hmm.
How about what the Tigers have done? That's really fun. So yeah, hopefully there'll be some new teams involved. But the NHL playoffs are just about over with. Stanley Cup Finals. Florida with a huge win the other day in Edmonton.
Yeah, game 3 is tonight.
Yeah, Game 3 was tonight. Yeah, is tonight. Down in Florida. So the series is tied 1-1. That's, what I'll say is that, and I don't have a dog in the hunt, nor would I if the Lightning were in it necessarily, but I can turn on a Stanley Cup final. I don't care who's playing. It's some of the best it's like one of the best sports events ever. Like, it just seems like those games are magical to me. They're grinded out games. Like, everything matters. Those guys have been going through hell for, about a month and a half now, and they get to this point. They'll do anything to win. And you see some of the damnedest things, but this is going to be a great series. It just feels like it's going to be a great series. So tied 1-1, headed to Miami, and we'll see what happens after that. As I mentioned, I'll be out at the Bucs mandatory minicamp on Tuesday, and the Rays are on the road. I guess they're headed out.
Red Sox tonight.
Red Sox tonight. Yeah, Boston just knocked off the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, so they're playing pretty good. Had a bunch of home runs in that game, so it'll be a challenge for the Rays to try to run down the Yankees. They picked up a half game on Sunday night, now 4.5 back in the AL East, and they would make the wild card, as you said, if the season ended tonight, which it does not. Hey, make sure you get on down to Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Go see our friends there. Check out the Chronomat watches, the Navitimers. Breitling has been in business for over 140 years. They've been at the International Plaza for more than 5 years. They have women's watches as well for your wife, for your girlfriend. They're durable. They're beautiful. Tons of colored wristbands. And check out the NFL 104th anniversary watches. All 32 teams represented. Wow. Supplies last. It's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Make sure you let them know you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.